Dracula, made in 1931, was the first talking horror movie. It had box office success and made Todd Browning's career. Browning followed it a year later with Freaks.
We didn't lie to you, folks. We told you we had living, breathing monstrosities. You laughed at them, shuddered at them, and yet, but for the accident of birth, you might be even as they are. They did not ask to be brought into the world, but into the world they came.
In 1836, Ralph Waldo Emerson spoke of projection as when something that is taken to be a quality of another person is a thing only conceived inside your own soul. A projector projects what it contains. What is the monstrous? Horror. It can certainly happen that we create the monstrous deed, the monstrous quality, then kill the monster. It has happened. If anything is a candidate for something essentially subjective, something coming from us and projected onto what is not us, it is horror, which is the name of a feeling in us. Or so people will tell you. But isn't it also the case that the horrible is not an invention? There are true horrors. The feeling of horror, which is indeed a feeling, is also the right response to the truly horrific. In the last episode, I spoke of the image of the monster. What is a monster? The monster, in myth, literature, pop culture, conveys three different things. And I'm talking about a monster, a beast, because we are threatened by something with these three qualities that are features of the monster. First, the monster is created. The beast is man-made. In the last episode, I spoke of the man-made nature of horror and recalled a point I made earlier, that the thing that creates the monster is non-life. The second quality of the beast is the obvious one. The monster is a threat. If, first, the monster is created by us, second, this creation is destructive of us. It has the character of monsters in movies. It may seem banally obvious to say that monsters destroy, but a person who connects monsters, above all, with horror is in fact losing that connection. What is it that makes the monster bad? Is it that it is horrible? Horrible why? All the monsters are powerful, and they destroy. They have destructive power. What kind of a threat is the monster? What makes the monster bad is that it destroys, is bent on destruction, and has a special ability to destroy. Consider the notion of horror. What is the horror of the monster? Or why are stories of monsters called horror stories? Horror is essentially the name of a feeling, a reaction, something subjective, that is, something in a subject who is responding to a monster. Sometimes, as we saw in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, at least the way she wrote it. The monster is horrible. It, or the mere sight of it, inspires that feeling. It prompts revulsion. Whether it, therefore, is horrific, that is, whether this feeling coming from us is at the same time a quality of this separate being, whether it is revolting, evil, to be shunned, is the central question that is explored in some horror stories. Does our distress tell us anything about this being? Are we so powerful as to turn it into, in its very being, a construct of our feeling, a construct of our disability, our failure to do what the narrator in Frankenstein did, which was to make himself ask what this creature is, despite how it looks, despite its actual crimes, and what treatment, therefore, he owes it. There is a tremendous, I should say horrific, injustice in replacing the true identity of a separate being with what is merely our reaction, a feeling of horror that is projected onto another being and seals its fate. We create the monstrous and kill the monster. But horror is the name of a feeling, a reaction that is sometimes fitting. I just use the name in exactly that way. We don't always fail to ask what the thing is or make a mistake about it. The horrible injustice may be real. The injustice that wipes out a person and assigns him the role of the freak, the subhuman being, may be real, has been real, and it horrifies us. The freak is a social construct in a world in which the identity of a being is properly settled by the soul, not the body, settled by the presence of the image of God. So horror is not only something subjective. The feeling of horror is also the right response to the truly horrific. It is not a fabrication of the mind, but the response that captures, registers the reality of the truly horrific. The thing, whatever it is, has a nature that rightly horrifies. But you have to allow for the reality of truth just to say this, to talk about the truly horrific. I mean, in fact, you have to allow for that kind of truth that captures the way things are, that corresponds to reality. In this case, the reality of the horrible. And what is truly horrible? The ancient world never succumbed to any real confusion about whether there was anything that was truly horrific. The monster is an ancient idea. In ancient Egypt, Apophis, or Apep, the serpent or dragon of darkness, was the embodiment of chaos, which was understood as departure from the order, Ma'at, the divine order established at the time of creation, which all things were meant to preserve. Chaos was terrible. It inspired terror. Terrible, horrible, terrified, horrified. Terror and horror belong together. Is there any difference? Perhaps horror is fear of death personified. It is the terror of looking into the face of the beast I am describing. The creature that lusts for your destruction has a special power to destroy you. The Gorgon killed at a glance. The Medusa is an invented monster that fuses what is monstrous about her relentless and indiscriminate destruction, with her appearance, her image. That is, she is an image of the beast, whose qualities we are laying out. Every symbol is an appearance or visible form given to something symbolized. What is symbolized in the Gorgon is this unrestrained destruction. And if we want to symbolize the monstrous, if we want to make up some creature that embodies the quality of the monster, If we want to depict it in a myth or a story, make an image of it, the perfect way to do so is to choose something horrific and repulsive. In images, in the genre called horror, we render the monstrous by recourse to the ugly and repellent. And what is monstrous about the Medusa? What is truly horrible about her? It is the horror beneath her appearance, and explains that appearance, is her dedication to our destruction. She radiates our destruction. Just seeing the Gorgon is fatal. The concept of horror has come to mask what it really means. The horror of the Gorgon is the horror of death, the terror of the prospect of almost inescapable destruction. It is the destruction that is horrible, repulsive, and so the image chosen for the monster becomes horribleness. The monster is horrible in its very form and definition. The myth of the Gorgon is unique in that this creature that is monstrous looks monstrous and kills by its very looks. A very fitting image of the will to destroy, of anti-life, is the form that destroys. So the conception of the Medusa wears this evilness of the monster on its sleeve, so to speak, so that we understand that the creature is monstrous. But really all monsters do this, by their ugly appearance. The terrifying image chosen for the beast reveals the nature of the beast as a force of your destruction. I asked, what is the horror of the monster? What is the explanation for their terrifying appearance, the horribleness of the Minotaur? It is their dedication to our annihilation. Knowing nothing about us, the Medusa, the Minotaur, want our destruction. All we need to do is come near them. The second quality of the monster, then, the most essential quality of everything that is monstrous in itself, and the reason why I am presenting the reality that this program is about as a beast, is the enduring threat of the monster, its will to destroy, to kill, but in fact worse. Killing ends earthly life, but only prematurely, since earthly life is going to end. Far worse is to end what is not meant to end. There is a more terrible destruction than killing, as Socrates explained. We will have to see what this kind of destruction is, as it is a power possessed by the beast. The supreme force of destruction is the beast, and it is real. If I were to ask why in ancient mythology were there monsters, what answer would you give? Your answer might reveal your susceptibility to the way things look to be. That is, reveal a certain lack of questioning. We are satisfied with the way things appear, or rather the reflex thought, the unthinking thought. There are monsters in ancient mythology because muffled is quite sufficient. What is that muffled answer? Because ancient people were uneducated, foolish enough to believe. But this might be the foolish answer. It's quite possible that we are stunted, that our own development is arrested by a satisfied culture that engineers and preserves its own stunted growth, switches off what could stretch it. Is this a culture of bonsai people? Relying on what is already there in our minds, we reflect no further. The ready-made answer to the question is all we want. We are on a tangent here, but it seems fairly important. Registering this stunted condition, the result of what looks to be a lapse in the use of our own equipment, the use of our minds, our hearts, to see what only they can reveal. This is part of the rather profound problem of the visible and the invisible. We stop at the visible. Anything not already visible does not detain us. The beast is invisible, so there is no beast. The position in society of the people who are too ignorant to give credit to anything but their senses, as this problem was framed in the 12th century, is still a serious problem. A problem then, in medieval and also ancient times, a problem even greater now. But this drops us off back at our question about myth. Captivation by the visible, which is obliviousness to the invisible, is a problem that myth aimed to remedy. We need the myths, which attach visible images to invisible realities, to free us from the tyranny of the obvious. There were monsters in ancient mythology because monsters are real, and we need to understand this. There is a beast created by man, but invisible. The real beast has no horrific outward appearance because it has no appearance at all. The beast that these myths are telling us of has no physical embodiment. It is given one by the myths so that we can register its existence, understand where the destruction is coming from. I have created this program to that end, to try to give back to people in our time, well, to the few who tune into this set and don't switch off, the consciousness that we today entirely lack because we have no myth. The mythic or visible-invisible dimension of the Bible, which is huge, is shut out. There are monsters in ancient mythology because the beast is real and is of monstrous mythic scale. It demands our attention, and so was given attention in the legends. It demands our attention because it wants something and is drawn to us to get it. Once again, to anyone who says, this is too one-sided, wrongly focused on the negative, it is the divine that is important, I am sympathetic, but simply cannot agree. In this world of the divine alone that you would have us focus on, you cannot even register the beauty of the divine. All you can squeeze from semi-reality is lukewarm feelings. What is there to the Bible as redemption story, unless there is something real and bad to be saved from? The positive, yes, but in Genesis 4, it is the divine being himself who turns our attention to the monster. If you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you. If you fasten on the word sin here, which is an abstraction, a concept in need of explanation, you will miss the instruction that is actually being offered here by the image of a beast. There is something crouching at your door, something which is different from not doing well, not doing as you should, which the text says is what opens your door to the beast. Nothing crouching at your door is good. And in the words, its desire is contrary to you, you have the very essence of the monstrous. It wants something, and it is the worst of things, the horrific. What it wants is worse than to kill you. Its desire is contrary to you. It is against all that you are. Everything in you that is you. Your life, yes, but your health, your sanity, your future, your happiness, your being. This beast exists. If from these words in Genesis your takeaway is the message of sin, warning, you're not hearing the message. You're coming away with a contained, non-mythic, domesticated idea when you are being warned about something quite the opposite. What gives the lust of the beast for human annihilation its power, what drives all the destruction it lives to produce, and the monster, unlike any beast in the wild, does not destroy to live, it is more the other way around, is a further quality of the monster, its rage. The rage of the beast can tell us what kind of force we are dealing with. How, indeed, can a monster be dealt with?